Oi, galera. Tudo bem?
Tudo bem, beleza.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, despite what I'm telling people, I still do not feel very confident in my Portuguese. So we still will have this conversation in English. Also for the sake of Hanna, who cannot speak Portuguese yet, but actually Hanna is my dear friend, and she actually speaks, like enormous amount of language. I think like 20 maybe, at least. So she speaks Arabic, she speaks French and English and a little bit of Italian and some languages that I don't remember, but she's amazing. And and I want to just maybe someone can also present Lisandra when else her best. Silvia, maybe you can present Lisandra.
So, Lisandra, we had some contact in the past. She is a UI UX phenomenon, has been working on this space for quite a while, here in Brazil, US, and now she's, you've been from Europe, right? But it's an unusual place of Europe is Gibraltar, right? It's the first person I ever met that lives in Gibraltar, which is phenomenal as well. So she has a great career over there, and actually everywhere she has been. So it's a great addition to the TDC for sure.
Great. Thanks, Lisandra. Do you want to introduce yourself as well? Quick words to introduce yourself.
You guys want me to introduce myself? So hey, Hi everyone. I was watching the previous chat. Like, you guys are so amazing. I'm so glad to be here. So thank you so much. I hope I can help and collaborate, like to engage you, to encourage you guys to work remotely, work like having pursuing a international career. So yeah, I mean Gibraltar. Gibraltar is like the cheap south point in Spain, but it's not Spain. It's UK. But it's super hot here, super amazing. It's very, very nice place. I can see Africa from my window, actually.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. And Johanna, do you want to introduce yourself in quick words?
I just want to say that, unfortunately, I don't speak 20 languages yet, but thank you, Kateryna.
19.
19.
And yeah, definitely, hopefully next time I'll be there with you guys physically. I'd love to experience Brazil. Kateryna is raving about it, about how much she loves it. So yes, hopefully next time I'll be here. And I'm actually from Montreal, Canada right now.
Yeah, so for people who might just joined, I'm Kateryna. I work with Sigma Software. I run our operations in Americas. I'm based out of Dallas, but originally I'm from Ukraine. So I feel that, I can talk about experience of being a woman, woman in tech, and also like immigrant woman in tech. So, and that is what our panel is about. And essentially, I think the way we would structure it, maybe Pedro and Celia will ask first questions. If audience wants to ask some questions, please we will take them as we go. And Hanna and Lisandra, if you want to add or you want to explore a different part of that, also feel free. So it's like a freeze, what I would call more like a fireside chat. So we would just want to talk about experience we had, being immigrants, being women, being in tech, and all that together.
Right.
Perfect.
So, perfect. So let's start with the first question then. We don't have a lot of time. So can you explain a little bit about your professional journey, right? What happened to make the decision to immigrate, and what's the specific area of technology that you guys that you work on, right?
I just repeat for our audience because it's a little bit hard to hear here. So the question is like, what essentially led us to the decision to immigrate? And maybe Lisandra, Hanna, maybe you can first answer.
I can open the ball. Do you want, Lisandra, is that okay with you? Yeah? Awesome. So basically moving to Canada was not my decision. I moved to Canada when I was 9 years old because my parents, I'm originally from Africa, from Sudan to be more specific. So I grew up in Canada, but growing up, I had the chance to live in different countries. I have moved back to Africa at some point, to the Middle East, but Montreal always feels like home to me because this is where I grew up, this is where I have my roots. And regarding what brought me into tech, I would say it's a happy accident of how I landed in the tech industry. It's an industry that I've been in love with for a long time, but because it's very hard for women to access tech industry positions in Canada, especially if you don't have an engineering background like myself, that, you know, I come from the business background. So the coincidence happened, or the accident I call it, it's when actually Sigma was my client, and I then got the chance to work for them. And the tech industry is an industry that is very innovative, that is very fast paced, and this is where I see myself growing. So I have joined Sigma almost a year and a half ago, and I run their operations in Canada, and I feel myself, I'm always learning, and this is something I really like, because it's an industry, you know, that is always changing. There's always like new challenges coming on, and this is how I found myself in the tech industry.
Nice, thank you. Lisandra, what about you? What's your story?
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. So actually, like I left Brazil because like I was having a few interviews for Google, Facebook, because it was back to 2011. And these companies were going like, they were moving to Brazil as well. And all of the recruiters were asking me to do a English interview in English. And I was super insecure with my English. And I said, no, I don't speak English. My English is horrible. I don't want to do an interview in English. And of course, I didn't get the job. And then I decided to, go to somewhere and finally learn English and start feeling more confident about English. And I moved to San Francisco, not by chance, because back to Brazil, I was working for .com companies. So I always worked for .com companies. And I chose San Francisco in purpose. And when I moved there, I took advantage. I would stay there for 6 months to study English, but I tried to go to all the meetups I could go, to take their classes and workshops. Even though I was not understanding super well, I was trying to connect and meet people and take advantage as much as I could, like from San Francisco. And I was super lucky because I met a lot of people. I created opportunities for myself doing that. And then I ended up being invited to work there. And one thing drove me to another thing. I lived in San Francisco, worked there. Then I need to move with the company because the company was moving their office to Los Angeles. I moved to Los Angeles. Then I decided to be a little bit more digital nomad. I moved to New York. Then I had this opportunity to come to Europe to get my citizenship. And then since I moved to Europe, I've been moving from one country to another. I moved to Ireland, to Netherlands, and now I'm in Gibraltar. And I was getting opportunities and like moving from one company to another company, always in tech, because my full experience was in tech. And here I am.
Yeah, great. And you, Kateryna?
Yeah, so first, Lisandra, like an amazing story, and I envy you a little bit that you got to live in all those countries. I think my story definitely pales compared to Hanna's and Lisandra's. So essentially, I started to work with a company. I worked there for maybe 7 years, and then they actually relocated me to United States to work in the office in the United States. And I still worked at the same company, but in a different country. So I do feel that my story is kind of much easier than most of the people, because like when you change country and you change company, it's like much more change, much more challenges, and also like I haven't thought I haven't thought to be relocated, and so it was easier for me that way. On the other hand, like what wasn't easy for me is that there was no company. So when we relocated with my husband, there was no one in the United States. So essentially, we didn't know how to apply for insurance. We didn't know how to make all the bureaucracy work. It was first couple of years were extremely hard in terms of no one was there to actually help us to understand. Not like our company was very supportive, but they also didn't know. And you would assume that you can go and ask like, professional people for help, but when you don't know what to ask, you also don't receive the correct help. So usually I feel that when we then relocated other people to states, we I tried to make sure that their experience was much less rocky than mine. Again, not the fault, like not in any case the fault of my company or anything, just like it was like pioneering our effort to be in another company. And also with the first international office that we opened in our company, so there was a lot of pioneering in that regard. But definitely I think it's still a little bit easier than just like going to another country, finding a new job, and doing all that in completely out of your comfort zone.
Nice. Thank you all. Okay, so the next one is like, if you have to say, what was the biggest challenge in this whole process of changing countries, defining your career in tech, establishing yourself as a successful professional in technology, as a woman as well? So what was, if you had to find the biggest challenge, what was it? If you had to point to one. Just
let me take that one. So first, so I think that I have two different challenges in being in tech and being immigrant. They're not related. So being a woman in tech, the hardest part is to make men respect you. That was the hardest part, and especially when you're a young professional and when you're like a young manager, it's extremely hard when you're talking to men twice older than you who consider you like a girl, and you need to make sure that they do what you tell them to do. It was, and you also like don't want to come across as extremely aggressive, because it's also kind of off-putting. So striking that balance of being in a person of authority but also not being considered someone with whom people don't want to work was definitely a challenge for me for several years. In terms of immigration, my hardest part is to raise kids in another country, because it's completely different and you don't understand. I actually moved from New York to Dallas. One of the biggest reasons was that we have friends with kids similar age in Dallas, and I wanted to be around people who can teach me how to do it. I wanted to be around people who will actually teach me how to raise Americans, because I don't know how to do that. I've never seen it. It's like completely no idea, honestly. I don't know what books people do. I don't know what what you do to school. I don't know what to wear to Halloween, what are rules. And I want to make sure my kids do not feel odd because I don't know how to be American. So that is still my biggest challenge in immigration.
Please, Hanna, go ahead.
Sure. So, I've been living in Canada for almost 30 years now. And although, like, I feel Canada is my home, because I'm a woman of color, like, when people see me, then I'm not Canadian. Until now, there is, there are some challenges that I face. For instance, especially in the tech industry. And I see it now that I'm really working in that, I see it more and more. So chances will be given to people who are not from an immigration background. Although I'm Canadian, although I did all my schooling here, there was always like how can I, this barrier, I need to work harder. Like, you know, if I want to meet a client, I need to work harder to get that client to meet me. And if it's a man, like Kateryna said, most of the time, women, we are not taken seriously, especially when we speak about tech. Like when I'm meeting with clients, trying to explain to them how we can help them, oftentimes the client will tell me, oh, is your team only women? Like, do you have men in your team? And, you know, the way they would say it to me, it's not like in a mean way, but I think they have been used so long to do business, especially with someone like in a managerial level in the tech industry that is a man, that they're surprised. So I often tell them, oh, well, you know what? In America, we're actually 75% women who are in managerial position. And, you know, at Sigma, we really support that. And yes, we do have men. So if you feel like, you know, talking to a man in my team, I'll bring someone in, but, you know, you can talk to me. And I say it to them in a very candid way, not to show that I'm offended, because it is offensive. You know, what do you mean? Like, do you have any men in your team? But so this is like a it's a battle that is more and more, I find women here in Canada have to face, whether they're immigrants, whether they're Canadian, in the sense that we're not really taken seriously when it comes to the tech industry, because it's very male dominated here. So there's a lot of work to be done in order to kind of make the tech industry more diverse and more equitable here in Canada. I'm not sure if it's the same in Brazil. I know in the States, this is something similar, because like I like to read articles just to educate myself. So perhaps after, you know, you could share how it is for women in tech in Brazil.
Okay, for me, being a woman, actually, to be honest, was never a problem. Maybe because I was way more working in a more creative space, which is UX, UI, or social media than dev. And also, like, I always worked for companies that had like female leadership. So myself, like, I've been being a leader in the companies I've been working. So even though like I work for a gambling company, which is super male centric, like still you see female leadership. So maybe by not by chance, maybe like unconsciously I chose companies that like were a little bit more open for woman in leadership. Maybe this was the case. So I never felt this, and I never felt also like any problem in being a Latin American woman. It's the opposite. People thought, oh, thank God there is someone to cheer up like the team, because everything's so boring here, you know, like, and find that there is some sunshine here. So for me, it was the opposite. Of course, like when you're talking about like out of the office, like flirting and stuff, like being a Latin American woman can be very challenging, but not in the companies, in office, my work, no, I never felt anything. I think the biggest challenge for me is a little bit maybe more aligned to what Kateryna was saying. Like, I think the bureaucracy, because I've been living in so different countries. Of course, in Netherlands, I lived in North, so the language was super challenging. And I moved from California to New York. They have like super different accents. And then I moved to Ireland, another type of accent. I worked with a lot of Indian. So language was also a challenge, but like I was never like, never stopped me. But the bureaucracy and the culture differences like was super crazy for me, because each country there was a different way of hiring, of like you know, like how is the culture in the office. For example, in Netherlands, they are way more horizontal, so everyone makes decisions together. There is no such a thing as like someone saying yes or no. Like, people make decisions, doesn't matter if they are interns. And for me, it was super hard because I had work in Brazil, which is super hierarchical. In America as well, like you wait for your boss saying yes, you know. So it was super challenging for me working in Netherlands. I learned like after a while. Now I work with English people, British people. They are so different. Like they say no without saying no. They say yes without saying yes. And you are, oh my God, you're saying no or yes. You never know like what the English people are trying to tell you. But I think it's more culture and bureaucracy. You need to find out how to do tax, how to do this, and then people start asking like, how is going to be your pension? Because I've been moving from country to country as well. It's different, I think, from you both girls, because you might have pension in America. In Canada, I've been moving a lot. So yeah, I think culture and bureaucracy for me they were the worst, I think.
All right, thank you. And this is our last fixed question. After that, we'll want something from you guys, please. So put questions in the chat for us to continue this. But if you have to say, to give some tips to someone that's just now planning and thinking about making the move, immigrating, and is someone that wants to really get into technology, live in their countries, and that they are planning this right now. So which tips do you have for them?
Okay, so I think the first tip is always, make sure you really want it, both things. Make sure you really want to be in tech and you really want to immigrate. And if you decide that you wanted to do it, then just keep pushing till you get what you want. So I think I literally tell this to my team. There is two ways to fail. You either give up or you die. And if you decide to do something, you fail if you decided then that you will not be doing this, right? Or you die before you succeed, right? So it's logical, two ways, right? So essentially, because we will not, take dying into consideration this. So essentially, if you will just not decide to not fail, that you inevitably at some point in time succeed. It might take a lot of time. It might take a lot of, it might be hard. It will take a lot of grit, especially with immigration. I think tech is much easier. Immigrating, especially in a country like US, might be extremely challenging. And by the way, if you want to immigrate to the US, I literally, would ask you to maybe, if you really want to do it, because, for example, Canada, I would say is more comfortable country for living. And, there are other countries that are easier to immigrate to and that are might be more comfortable to live. So I would just you need to decide what you want and make sure that the country that you're going to really has it, and that you are sure it not from movie or from your childhood dream. That's not just have a childhood dream that you would live in New York, and that's why you're just applying to some visas and lottery every year. But you really know how expensive it is in New York, how dirty it is in New York, how hard it is to get to one place to another, and you're comfortable with all that. By the way, I love New York, right? I understand there are people who legitimately would want and be happy to be in New York, and there are a lot of people who legitimately would be completely not happy and completely miserable. So just make sure that if what you're doing is really what you want, and you're not ending up, because I know a person who I really feel, fulfilled his, childhood dream to live in New York, and now can't admit even to himself that all that effort was wasted, and he actually needs to live somewhere else because he doesn't like it there. So I feel I know a person like that. So make sure it's not you, but once you decide that this is what you want, just keep at it.
I would like to add also, as I said, I've lived most of my life in Canada, but I moved to quite a lot of countries and even provinces. Do research, because, sometimes you have this idea and you just look online. But when I say do research, try nowadays, there's so many ways to reach out to people living in these countries. So try to make friends beforehand, before going, because there is a lot of cultural differences and you might be very shocked. I will take my example. When I was 19, I packed my bags, December 24, which is my birthday, and I told my parents, I'm moving back to Sudan, where I was born. And in my mind, I was going to go back there because I have family and I was going to love it. I could not stay more than 6 months. The culture, although I am originally from there, was born there, I live there, but going back after living abroad for a long time, it was a big cultural shock. And so I couldn't stay more than 6 months, unfortunately. But, every time after that I've moved, it was a learning experience for me from this failure. to learn about where I'm going, to try to befriend people who are my age, not like my aunts and uncles who told me, yeah, everything is going to be fine and, it's flowers and rainbows. So get a lot of experience, like research by reaching out to people to learn about this country. And if it's a completely different language, try starting to learn it. Because, once you go to a new country, you have to deal everything, like finding a place to stay. If you have kids, where would I put my kids? So if you have also like a language barrier, it could make things even harder for you. So if it's a language that is, like maybe easy for you to learn, like there's so many softwares and like programs online that, will help you learn this language, and take it as an adventure. Adventures come with challenges. Adventures come with, things that you're not expecting. So when you take your move, if you really, this is what you feel that you need to do as an adventure, whatever is going to come your way, you won't feel discouraged right away. You will try to challenge it and attack it and enjoy it. So this is my my advice to anyone who's looking to to immigrate to a new country.
I loved everything you said, Hanna, because I think it's exactly what you said. Like, you need to, my true advice will be open and laugh about like the challenge, because by the end it's fun. It's fun and funny. Like, just like what you said is beautiful. Like, be adventurous and be open for cultures, be open for the differences, be open to learn the bureaucracy, be open to learn a language, be open to meet people, and making sure to also learn about yourself, because the more you learn about yourself, the easiest is like for you to find yourself in any place, in any environment. So doesn't matter where you live, which culture is, which company you are working for. Like, if you know yourself, if you're good with yourself, if you're like in peace with yourself, like everything is easy and light. So this would be my two non-practical. The girls, they said everything, so I just would like to compliment with like this more spiritual like side.
Yeah,
All right.
and great. We have a question here from our chat. Flavia Gomez asking, what about missing family? How do you handle it?
Okay, so I think like we need to divide it to two periods of my life. So first, when we just moved, and I'm from Ukraine. So first, when we moved, it was, I used to go to Ukraine quite often, at least like 3 times a year. And I would stay in Ukraine for like at least a couple of weeks, but usually even like 3 or even a month. And also while doing that, I was trying to spend some quality time with my family and friends. And actually for me, it was, it worked out really well, because you can, when you do that, you can, when you live near your family, you might not really spend so much time with them, because you always feel that you can. So when you're, coming back home not so often, you actually can have some, really meaningful, conversation, really meaningful, time with your family. Now, obviously, after war has started in Ukraine, situation has changed, but I don't think it's, and I don't see some of my family members. I haven't seen them for a lot of time now, but that is not really relevant to immigration. So, and if you, like we say, that if you can't travel to your country and you can't meet people you want for a very long time, that is really tough. You can try to do Zoom calls and stay in touch, but it will be tough, and it's just a decision you need to make. What is more important for you? But again, if you can't travel back and see your family regularly, most likely it will hurt. There's no way around it.
I can go next and share. Actually, we're a big family. We're 7 kids, and we're extremely close to each other. Like, we're the type of family that every weekend we all meet at my parents' house. My mom and my dad, I call them religiously every morning to check on them. And then, we call each other the sisters. So while I was living abroad, we used to use like, Facebook Messenger at the time to chat. There is WhatsApp. But one thing that I used to do, and it helped me a lot, because as Catherine said, sometimes it's not easy to connect or to travel back. I actually used to keep a journal. And this journal was of everything that would happen to me. And, every time I go back home, I would give it to my sisters or I give it to my best friends, say they could read. And I've asked the same of them. And of course, like some of my sisters were not, perhaps they were not missing me as much as I'm missing them. So they would not really write on their journal, like, what happened to them, the big events, like the breakups, the new boyfriends or whatever. But, just by me writing, it kind of made me feel closer to them, even if I was not able to travel as much. So there's a lot of ways, like, because it's hard, you're going to miss your family, like, especially if you have very close ties with them. But I think we could be creative sometimes, to try to feel closer to them. So yeah, this is my my advice.
I need to ask a question. Was Nala writing a journal? Because I know one of Hanna's sisters, and I want to know if she was doing that. Like,
no, Nala was not writing a journal. She would just call me, like, when there was a crisis, Hanna, this has happened. She's like the gossip girl of the family.
Yeah, that was my feeling as well.
That's amazing. Like, I think what you both said, like, so important, right? Like, I think when you go back to our country, like, the time we spend with our family has more quality, because you don't have time to have fights or arguments. You just want to make sure you enjoy that moment. So at the beginning, I used to go back to Brazil a lot as well. And I did something like Hanna as well, like to connect with my cousins, because my cousins, they're like my sister and brothers. We create an Instagram about beer, because we all love beer, and we start like updating this as our way to keep connected. But now it's way easier, right? Because we have social media, Skype, WhatsApp is way to keep in touch. But something that I learned, like living abroad for this more than 10 years, is like the expats abroad, they became your family as well. And that is so beautiful, because people help each other, and like it's very important for you. Because of this, I said be open, because you're going to meet people, and they are going to be important in your life. They are going to see important things happen in your life. They're going to share special moments with you. So I usually say, like, we have this expat nation, which is like when people ask me, like, where you live, I say I live, or where you're from. I say I'm from this expat nation, or immigrants nation. So we help each other, we support each other. Like, I have friends who had babies, and like I watch their babies for them. Like we help each other to when we are sick, we call to each other. So it's very important to make friends and make these connections and these human connections when you're living abroad. Because yeah, as Hanna said, you're gonna miss your family, you're gonna miss your friends, but at the same time, when you go back to home, as Hanna said, like, it's not the same. You have all this experience, and your friends, sometimes they didn't. So it's quite hard, like, reconnected to people who were behind you. But yeah, make friends and make connections. Make sure you have good friends, and they are there for you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add something, Lisandra, like, made me think of it. So, like, even now, my family is distributed around the globe. My friends are very distributed. Like, my friends are in different countries, and I travel a lot. Like, I usually don't stay longer than like 1 week at home, and travel, and and it's like, for example, I have amazing, colleagues that I can't even like name colleagues. They're just my dearest friends. Like, one of them is Hanna, another one is like Nastya there, and I have another person, Olga. She's now in Portugal, and let's say, like, in the beginning of months, we were all together, and it was like, so fun that we were all together. But then, like, yesterday I was with Olga, and I was missing Hanna and Nastya, and today I was with Nastya, and I'm honestly missing Hanna and Olga. And on top of all that, I miss my kids all the time when I'm not with my kids. When I'm with my kids, I miss all my friends. And, that's like, it's constantly like, someone is missing, from my environment. My environment is I never feel full, because I never feel like everyone I want to be with in the same place. So what I trying to do, and what I'm teaching myself to do every time, is to focus on what you have and experience you're having now. Like, being happy that you are with a person with who you are now and who you like, with people you love. When you're with friends abroad, or like in your current home country, be happy that you're with them. Where you back home, be happy you're with those friends and those family, and try to focus on what you have, not what you're missing.
Amazing.
Amazing. I want to ask a question as well. Like we said, what's the most difficult stuff? But I'd like to know what's the most enjoyable part of being immigrant women in tech. I think this is like something more. We may have lots of different answers now.
Well, I'm a conqueror. So for me, the most enjoyable part that that I had, all those challenges, I conquered them, and that I know that I will have even more challenges, and I'm sure I will conquer them as well. Because you know what, you can either give up or die, and I hope I'm not dying soon, and I'm certainly not giving up.
Amazing.
Yes, Catherine, please don't die. We need you. You know that. So yeah, actually, one of the most enjoyable thing for me has been to finding my voice and getting to know myself. Like when you're exposed to different cultures, when you move a lot, or when you go into a domain that like the tech industry, which was something very new for me, it forces you to do a lot of introspection, like to think about yourself, who you are, like, and you discover amazing things about yourself. You discover that I can do things, like Catherine said, like doing challenges. Like 4 years ago, if you would told me, Hanna, you need to be on a panel like this, I'd be no, because I'm someone who's very shy. But like having lived in different places, it gave me courage. Moving to a completely different industry that I'm not familiar with, and forcing myself to meet people, talk to people, to learn more about it. It kind of gave me my voice. It gave me. I discovered myself. I discovered a new part of myself. So, and that's why I said, like, you need to take it as a challenge, because challenges are beautiful. You should not be afraid of challenges. So this is a very exciting journey for me, and I really hope to continue in it.
Lisandra?
Yeah, I think I agree with you both. Like, I think, can you hear me? I think my connection is a little weird.
Yeah.
Can you hear? Yeah. I think I agree with you both. Like, feeling like there is no challenge enough to stop us is so amazing. Like, there is no border, there is no language, there is no bureaucracy that can stop us. And this feeling is so amazing. You feel like you can be everywhere, do everything. It's pretty amazing feeling. And now I love what you said, Hanna. Like, the more difference we see, the more we know ourselves. But also something that I think is super cool for me is like notice that everyone everywhere has the same basic needs, like, and we are all connected. Doesn't matter where you are from, which country you are, which culture you were raised. Like, we are all the same. Like, everyone is seeking happiness and love, all these things, So I think for me it was super important as well, like from this side, but enjoyable. Like, it's amazing being able to travel everywhere. Hanna was saying, like, we meet people from every corner in this planet, and you have like always a couch to stay, like, so it's amazing. Meeting people, knowing yourself, traveling. This is an amazing journey. Any challenges is enough to make this like being not amazing. So just come, guys.
A small tear here. Yeah, that's amazing. Sorry. I get it. So a little emotional.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. I wonder if we have, it's been so sweet. I wonder if I have more questions. I think we actually near the end of our time. And I'm not sure if we have any more questions from the audience right now. Yeah, like, tell me, people, like, I was talking about Nastya, who is, my good friend. Do you want to see her now or not? If you will have more reactions in chat, Nasta will come and you will see her. If not, then you will not see her. So I need at least like some reaction. Do you want to see Nasta? And she will ask a question. And she's very embarrassed. You should.
Yes, Nastya,
Bring her in. Yes.
By the way, Nastya is another immigrant woman. She's actually immigrated to the United States last year. So.
All the questions we
No, I will not answer that. Yeah, but I guess like I have a question. Maybe question not for you. I'm sorry for that. But maybe it will be mostly to Lisandra and Hanna. What is the most challenge for women immigrant to find, like when you're applying for the job when you're abroad and you're not from this country? I hope you don't ask this for your own, merit. I hope you know. I hope you know there's no live in me. I hope you know this by now.
I would say that the last name, Nastya. Very frankly, your name. No, it's true. No, I'm telling you, it's true. They do filter by last name, and I have done the test when I use, because my mother is half German, so she has a German last name, Klein. When I apply using Hanna Klein with the same experiences, I would get more responses than when I use my real last name, Abdel Hamid, because Abdel Hamid is very Arab. So having a different last name could be very challenging. This is like what I have experienced, because once I get in front of the interview, it's not really just in tech, it's in any industry. Once I get in front of the interviewer, it's a different story because they get to know me, I win them. But I often get stopped just because of my last name. And this is not just for me. This is actually, and I thought it was just me, but actually in Canada and specifically in Quebec, the French part, there has been researches, and now like more and more companies, what they're trying to do is to have an unbiased recruitment process where like people will send without their names or just with their initials, because when you have someone that you can't even pronounce their last name, sometimes you feel too far from them. You don't even want them, you don't want to give them this chance. So for me, it was just like my last name.
For me, like you were asking about the challenge, right? Like the challenge when you are applying. I think it's kind of like I got like recruiters talking to me, like chasing me. But like when I was in America or trying to apply to America, visa was an issue because I was working with OPT, which is a type of visa that just allow you work like I think 1-2 years. Excuse me. And then like every time when they ask like, do you have visa? You say no. It's because of these like things were easier for me in Europe because I have citizenship. So visa was a blocker for me. But like what I learned is like each country has a different way of like America is different from Europe, right? On how the strategies to find job. For me, always work like making connections. So going to events and all this stuff, like for me is way more effective than like applying through LinkedIn, these kind of things. LinkedIn has been working well for me lately, but at least at the beginning was a little bit harder because I remember when I was in America, they were saying, you don't have visa, you don't have experience in America. And then I got my experience in America. Then I moved to Europe. They said, you worked in America, but you don't have experience in Europe. So you need to create strategies, like to apply or to get a job, to get an interview. Just applying on LinkedIn is not enough. You need to create a strategy. It can be meeting people, going to meetups, connecting, writing about the topic you like or the topic you know more about. So you need to create strategy. So don't just apply on LinkedIn. Like do more. Connect with people that work for the company that you want to work for. So it's a pretty. I say like looking for a job is a job itself. You need to be dedicated. You need to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. It's not just like don't think you're gonna apply for 3-4 jobs on LinkedIn and it's gonna be okay. I think like it needs a little bit more than this, but at the same time it's fun. the journey is fun. Like you meet a lot of people, you connect, even though if you don't get the job, like you met someone who remember. Like I talked to recruiters in Europe. Is a little bit different from America, I guess. Kateryna, you can say for me it was different at least. But here, like this is very good strategy making friends with recruiters, like especially these more independent recruiters. So sometimes recruiters remember me, like they talked to me 4 years ago and they're, I remember you, there is something here we might like, or this is not my client, but I think you would like to connect with him for some reason. So yeah, make connections, increase your networking. I think is a good strategy. Sorry, I talked too much.
Yeah. No, but you're right, because I invited you to this panel because my brother recommended you a few years ago for a different thing, and he met you on a panel like this in a different UX event. So connections, absolutely. Appreciate their own connections. We have one more question here. Oh, please go ahead. No.
Yeah. So like Flavia asking is like, are the companies we are working for hiring? Our company is Sigma Software, and we do hiring people. So do hire people. So absolutely reach out to us. There is Anastasia, who I don't know how you will actually connect to her, but if you can find her on LinkedIn, she's head of operations Latin America. She raises her hand that you can reach out to her, and she will talk to you. And also she's so Hanna just shared Nasta's name. You can reach out to her, and we can definitely talk and see. By the way, like I think Vitor has shared. So Nastya, she has done in a previous international career, she actually done a talk about how the international process works. So maybe you can just try to look it up, or we can send it to you. So she actually have like explanation how the process works in talk. But we also are so happy to talk, have a call, and help you to navigate the process. I'm not sure I know about Sigma Software. If someone else wants to chime in with their companies, please do.
Just to let you know, guys, there are a few Facebook groups. Like in Europe, Facebook groups are super strong. There are a few Facebook groups that like people they share jobs with each other. Like in Ireland, there are quite few groups. There is one super good. This is only focused on tech. There is one focus only for positions for a woman in tech. So I will see if I can share with you guys later. But there are quite few Facebook groups that people support each other. Also because here in Europe, when you refer someone, you get some perks or money. So people like to refer each other. So there is a big referral industry here.
Cool.
And I think we actually overrun our time. Yeah, so I think, so I just, from my end, just like wanted to finalize, say that, I really enjoyed this panel. Thank you so much for the questions. And, thank you so much for everyone who were with us during this day. I hope you like it. And we hope to see you on next TDC, on next Career International track. And, follow Sigma Software's page, follow, TDC for like news, updates, and everything. And thank you so much for being with us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.